Okay, so like anime, I feel like in the most recent years has become like more and more mainstream. Like everyone from your ex's chiropractor to your coworker to that basic white girl in your art class, like everyone watches anime now. It's not like this obscure or weird thing like it was in the early 2000s. Like now people watch Demon Slayer or JoJo's or whatever else cuz it's like it's mainstream, But like I feel like the people are watching they're watching primarily just Japanese anime, and there's not really a lot of attention paid to the Chinese animation industry. But I feel like most people are watching Japanese anime and completely ignoring the industry that is Chinese animation. Because, just a quick history of, the Chinese animation industry. In 1922, Wang Aiming produced the first animation in a cartoon advertisement. And the first animation that included sound was released in 1935. And their first full-length animated feature film came out in 1941, which was several years after Disney's Snow White, which was a huge influence, not just in America, but across the world. It was released under difficult times because it was during war times, and but it was pretty influential for the time. The big thing comes in the Cultural Revolution in the 1960s, which sort of put a pause on animation, or at least like creatively made animations, because animation was most animation was made for propaganda purposes. And so by the 1970s, it was pretty clear that there was this sort of drop-off in film and theater when it came to the Chinese market. A lot of other countries had progressed in both live action and animation past what China had at the time because of this awkward pause that they had in the industry. So a lot of the time, Chinese animation still to this day gets overlooked because there just isn't as much of it as there is, for example, American or Canadian animation, or especially Japanese animation. So today I'm essentially going to rant to you about Chinese animes or donghua that I really like, and I'm going to format it in sort of a video essay format, to make it seem like I am a well-educated person. The three shows I'm going to be talking about are Link Click, Heaven's Official Blessing, and The Daily Life of the Immortal King. And you might be thinking, I've heard this one before. I'm not used to Chinese. I'm used to Japanese, or maybe I watch dubs, so I'm just used to English. Trust me, I get it. I am not a native Chinese speaker. My first language is English. So it took me a while to get used to Mandarin and just the way it sounds, especially after so long watching anime and getting used to the sound of Japanese. But trust me, it's like a really pretty language, and like Mandarin is like beautiful. You will fall in love, and there are. I mean, it's very broad because there's so many different dialects, but it's great, and you trust me, you will fall in love with it just like I did. So all of these shows that I'm about to be talking about are produced by Bilibili, which is a company run out of Shanghai. It was started in 2009, which is a few years after YouTube. I would compare it to YouTube. It's kind of like part YouTube, part Netflix, part Crunchyroll. When it started, it only had a few thousand people, but now it's become a very big deal in China, and it's got 31.6 million registered users. They produce they're a streaming service, so they host videos kind of similar to YouTube, but they also publish like comic shows. They have some games that they've released. They've got their fair share of controversies. My favorite is this time there was this singer-songwriter. I'm not going to name him because I feel like there might be some fans of him that may get mad at me in the comments, but he became a meme on this platform, and he threatened legal action against the company, and Bilibili, which apparently has more balls than YouTube ever will, didn't take down the videos. I don't know enough about the situation to make any, like, serious claims, but I just think it was really funny. Thought I'd share that with all of you. And it's got its, I mean, it's a big company that's been around for years, so it's got its fair share of controversies, but it seems like people really like this service. It's kind of like China's version of both YouTube and Netflix. The first show, but yeah, so all of these shows are, like, produced by this company. The first two I'm going to be talking about are available on Netflix. The last one isn't, but it's available on Funimation. All three are also available on Funimation, so if any of them that I'm talking about today interest you, you should definitely go give them a watch. You might be thinking, hey, I don't have time for all of this. I can barely get in my anime fix or my Squid Game fix or whatever else you watch. Don't worry, because the first show I'm talking about only has 12 episodes. The second one I'm talking about only has 15, and the third one only has 11. And those include a couple of special episodes, but, like, you can finish them if you have, like, a free day off of work or school or whatever. You could watch, like, all of these. So, you definitely should. But the first one I'm going to be talking about is Heaven's Official Blessing, which is based on a book by the same name by Moshang Tongzhu, who also made another book, which you might know as The Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, or The Untamed, which is a live-action series on Netflix. If you've heard of, like, that, that's another thing by the same author, but it's basically, she's, like, super popular in China, and, like, all three of her works have gotten an animated, and in the case of one of them, a live-action adaptation, so it's really big. The thing about her works is that they're all, like, queer or, like, boy love stories, and they're kind of, I haven't read her works, I should make that clear, but from what I've heard, they are pretty explicit, so if you like queer representation, that's the place to go. The thing with the shows are, there are specific censorship laws in China that prevent creators from showing or explaining or showing explicit certain types of content. That's not just with it doesn't just apply to queer content, but also relates to violence and certain other things. There's just censorship rules in place for the media, so sometimes they can't show certain things. So oftentimes when things are adapted, they are depicted as really good bros, but from what I've seen, I don't know that much about her other works, but I do know that this one is probably the most explicit that they could possibly be. It's the story, so Heaven's Official Blessing is the story of this disgraced crown prince who's he's ascended and been kicked out of heaven 3 times. He's sort of the black sheep of the family, and he's a really good guy. He has good intentions, and he just kind of wants to help people. So he's sent down to the mortal plane. He's got to take care of ghosts, and he fights ghosts, and he's got to take care of those because he's got this debt to heaven, and he ends up meeting this demon king, and they end up sort of having an affair that's sort of not. It's sort of frowned upon, not just because they're 2 men, but because they're just not supposed to be together at all. But it's a very wholesome story. Like I said, due to censorship in China, they're sort of, I mean, they're never explicitly, they call each other friends, but also they braid each other's hair and sleep together, and it's basically as explicit as they could possibly make it. So it's as canon as it will get. So if you're looking for a good romance, or just some queer rep, I know a lot of people are looking for that. This is pretty much the closest that you're gonna get with this kind of story. One thing I really like about it, I mean, the animation is really gorgeous. All of these shows I'm talking about have really pretty. They're just really well animated. The character designs are gorgeous. The backgrounds, the colors, I love everything about it. But like I love the character designs for this. They're very nice. And the one thing I really do like, though, is like the characters and like their relationships with one another. Not that just the 2 leads, the two who are in a relationship, but all of the characters are pretty nuanced. They'll be like sort of background characters that have just very nuanced relationships. Not everything is black and white. It's like, oh, this character is bad and this one is good. It's like, this guy is from heaven, but he kind of sucks because he's been covering up this thing. And it's like everything, I'm not going to spoil anything specific, but there are very nuanced moments and relationships in the story. And it's nothing is black and white. Everything is complex. Like, all the characters have very complex relationships with one another. And it feels just very, like, all the character dynamics feel very organic and enjoyable to watch. So yeah, it's very. I mean, romance. I kind of am deep down a sort of a sucker for romance, but I don't really watch that much romance myself. But I heard about this show, and it was animated by the same company as another show I like, and it's also produced by Bilibili. So I was like, I'll give it a try, and I ended up really enjoying it. The story's enjoyable, the characters are fun. And the main romance between the 2 leads is just very cute. So if you're into that kind of thing, I would definitely recommend this. If you're not so much into romance, there's also a show called Daily Life of the Immortal King. It's also based on a novel and adapted to show form. It's about this boy who defeats a powerful demon at the age of 6, and now 10 years later, he's trying to lie low and just be a normal high school student. The problem is he's very OP, and the take of an OP main character can be done very, very well. It just has to be done right. One of my favorite shows is One Punch Man, and because I love the way I love the way that both the anime and the manga tackle this character who is super overpowered. He's like so powerful that he can defeat all of his enemies so easily. But the problem is that he's bored with it. He doesn't really. He wanted to become a hero because he was passionate about it, but now he just doesn't feel anything because it's so easy. Everything comes so easy to him. And I love that concept of just like an overpowered character who I love that concept of an overpowered character who is just bored of being overpowered. Because the truth is, it probably would be pretty boring. I know people who are prodigies or who are naturally very good at something, and so they were, forced or coerced into doing this one thing that they're really good at, but they are totally burnt out because everybody expects them to be super good at this thing, and they are really good at this thing, but they don't really care about it that much. They don't want to do it anymore, and it's very interesting to see this in like a fantasy or supernatural aspect, where it's like the chosen one or the super powerful character who just doesn't want to be that anymore, because this main character, he literally can defeat all his enemies so easily, but he is just it has only brought problems to him and his family, and so he does this thing. This isn't really much of a spoiler because it's something that happens within the first episode, but there is this older man who's part of an organization who is credited with taking down the demon that the main character actually defeated. And so he continues to pin the responsibilities or his actions, all of the things that he's done, that he's accomplished, he pins them on this guy. And so this guy takes the credit for all the stuff he's done because all he wants is to live a normal life and lie low because that's what his parents want for him. And he doesn't really want to bring any strife or problems to his family. It's sort of, the characters tend to be kind of cliche, very they're kind of like stereotypes. Like, here's the tough one, and here's the rich girl prodigy, and here's the nerdy one, and then there's the main character. But you kind of start to fall in love with these characters, even though they can be kind of formulaic. It's very they all go to school together, and it's very reminiscent of My Hero Academia, if you like that. It's a lot like a lot of anime where it's got like a power system, kind of like things that come to my head are like Blue Exorcist and Jujutsu Kaisen. They're very there's like a power system where there's each character has different like numbers attributed to their powers and stuff. But it's very fun to see this main character who's very overpowered try to pretend like he's not, and so he'll be so powerful that he breaks a machine meant to test his power because it just can't record how high his power is, and so he'll just be like, oh, guess it's broken. And it's just very fun to see him try to make his way through a normal life. Yeah, and it's got the same animation studio behind it as the first show I talked about. So again, very pretty style. I love all of the character designs and the backgrounds and stuff. The combat is very fun to watch. There's also combat in the first story, but there's obviously way more in this one, which is kind of more of a fantasy. It's got sci-fi elements too, because it takes place in the future. And the character designs are pretty fun. So if you're more into kind of shonen type anime, or you just like watching fantasy or more action oriented shows, this one's definitely for you. And of course we're gonna save the best for last, or least in my opinion, the best, because I love this show. If you look at my channel, you can tell that I have made videos on this show before. It's called Link Click, or Shiguang Daili Ren. The official synopsis for the show is Cheng Jiaxue and Lu Guang use superpowers to enter clientele's photos one by one, no matter how dangerous. Welcome to Time Photo Studio. So basically, it's about these two guys. They run a photo studio, and underneath the guise of a regular business, they run this time travel agency. And our the first guy, Cheng Jiaxue, he jumps into the photos to carry out the client's request, and then Lu Guang guides him through the mission so he can look. So one of them jumps into the photos, and the other one sort of guides him. He's got the script of what he's supposed to say, and the thing with it is that when he jumps into a photo, he possesses the body of the person who took the picture, and so that's how they travel through time. So the client wants them to get specific information or deliver some words to a person who has passed away, and that's kind of their job. But of course, it always goes wrong because Lu Guang wants Cheng Jiaxue to do like something, but the thing about Cheng Jiaxue is that he's like very impulsive and he's emotional. I would say he cares a lot, and he is pretty smart. It's shown that later on in the show that he's actually pretty intelligent, but he's just he tends to be very impulsive, and he's more led by his emotions. So when he sees that somebody is in need or he sees a problem, he automatically jumps to help, even if it isn't the best solution, which is why he's the one who's he's sort of reactive, and Lu Guang is more proactive. Why he's sort of the advisor, so he's more level-headed and analytical. He looks at the big picture, whereas Cheng Jiaxue looks at the moment. And so most of the problems in the show are caused by Cheng Jiaxue like doing something that Lu Guang told him not to do. And there ends up being like there's a whole like interesting thing that happens later on, but this is only like 11 episodes. For all of these shows, there are season 2s that have been confirmed and are in progress, but for all of them, they're very short. There's only a few. So this one's only 11 episodes. It's got a couple of special episodes that are fun to watch. But it's got the music is just incredible. I will 100% sit and do my homework while I listen to the soundtrack of the show, because it's just so calming. There's a lot of piano, and there's some more like action heavy scenes, but most of it there's a few action heavy scenes, but most of it is just more laid back, and so a lot of it is piano, sort of lo-fi hip-hop type sounds, and the opening and the ending songs will be stuck in your head, I guarantee, for a very long time. I watched this back when it came out, and then I recently made my friends watch it again for my birthday, so I just saw it, and I forgot how great the music was, and I will not be forgetting again, because it is incredible. I love everything about the show. The characters are very fun. I love their designs. The sort of and like the way it's animated. The way the characters are animated are just very fun. Cheng Jiaxue is like he'll do that thing where he kind of sprawls out on the couch and he has his feet up all the time. And Lu Guang is much more, he sits like a normal person and he kind of just lounges. He's much more laid back, and they also have kind of opposite color schemes. They also have this landlord. She's sort of an older sister to Cheng Jiaxue. They grew up together, and she's also very fun character. The two boys who run the studio are the main characters, but she kind of serves as a third, like, point of the trio. And her dynamic with the two of them becomes very fun. She'll kind of just come in. She just kind of comes in. She and Shang Joshi have a very, like, sibling-like relationship where they're often, like, fighting or goofing around, but you can tell they care a lot about each other. And there's a lot more fun characters with, like, these interesting designs, and I don't want to, go too much into detail because I don't want to spoil anything, because I really think you should go watch this show. But a couple of my videos about it have gotten a surprising amount of views because I didn't know this many people were into it, but it's still, especially in the US, it's a very small show. Not a lot of people have heard about it. If you just scroll through the Twitter or the Tumblr, like, fan art of it, you're not gonna find a whole lot of stuff. But it's definitely an underappreciated show, and I think you should definitely watch it. And then there are plenty more, Donghua or Chinese anime, and you should definitely go look into them. There's a couple more on the screen that I haven't seen all of, but I have heard they're good, and these three are just the three that I definitely recommend because I've seen all of them and I love them a lot. And they're pretty easy to watch. Again, Heaven's Official Blessing is on Netflix or Funimation. Daily Life of an Immortal King is also on Funimation or Netflix, and Link Click is also on Funimation. I definitely think that you guys should go watch these through the official sources and not through some third-party service. Definitely go support these shows directly because they all deserve as much content as the creators possibly can get. And again, the first show I went over, only 12 episodes plus a special. Second one is 15 episodes. And the third is only 11 with a couple of specials that aren't very long, and they all have second seasons that have been confirmed, but have not had at least Heaven's Official Blessing and Link Click have not had an exact release date, but the guess is somewhere around 2022. So no more of those excuses of I don't have time, because these shows are very short. You can get through them in a couple hours individually. And yeah, so I think there should be a lot more attention paid to Chinese animated films. I know there's this movie that came out earlier this year called Wish Dragon, and it was pretty fun, but not a lot of people saw it. But yeah, I feel like, more Western audiences should not just be watching Japanese shows, but should also be watching Chinese shows because they're equally as good, and even though there aren't that many of them, you should definitely go give them a watch. But that's enough of me ranting about shows that I like. I'll see you next time. And also let me know down in the comments below if you decide to watch these shows. Okay, bye!